All right. Well, first name Sean, spelled S-E-A-N. Last name is de Guzman, spelled with a lowercase d-e, then a space, then capital G-U-Z-M-A-N. So, all right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sean de Guzman. I am the manager of DWR's Snow Surveys and Water Supply Forecasting Unit. We're here for the fourth measurement of the year here at the Phillips Station Snow Course, which is our most critical measurement, which is our April snow survey. And again, this represents just one out of over 260 different snow courses that are measured statewide by different cooperators of the California Cooperative Snow Surveys program. So for our survey today, we recorded a snow depth of 126.5 inches and a snow water content of 54 inches. That results in 221% of the April 1 average here at this location. We use the April 1 snow metric because in terms of snow water content, that is typically when our snowpack is at its peak each year. In comparison, our statewide automated snow sensor network is currently reporting 237% of average to date. So I'll go ahead and repeat those numbers. The survey today recorded a snow depth of 126.5 inches and a snow water content of 54 inches. That results in 221% of the April 1 average here at this location. And again, our statewide automated snow sensor network is reporting 237% of average as of this morning. So this year's April 1 result from our automated snow sensor network is actually greater than any other year that we have recorded since the snow sensor network was deployed roughly in the mid-1980s. But according to all of our snow courses, which date back even further to the early 1900s, 1910 being our earliest snow course, there have only been 3 other years where our April snowpack has been greater than 200% of average in April. Those years were 1952, 1969, and 1983. This year is going to join that list and be another year well above 200% of average. We still are waiting for more snow data and snow survey results to come in from our various cooperators and partners. But as of this morning, as of right now, it's looking like this year's statewide snowpack will probably most likely be either the first or second biggest snowpack on record dating back to 1950. California's dramatic improvement in water supplies from 1 year ago has unfortunately led to devastating flood impacts across the state. After April 1st, we shift our focus away from snowpack building to snowpack melting. The team I lead in snow surveys and water supply forecasting has been actively supporting the efforts of the State Federal Flood Operations Center and has been able to provide information to various emergency response agencies in the Central Valley about the snowpack and the volume of snow melt we expect to see later on this year after all the snowpack melts. We're currently forecasting record-breaking spring snow melt in the Tulare Lake region, which is ranging anywhere between 265% of average in the Kings River watershed, upwards to an absurdly high 422% of average for a snowmelt runoff for the Kern River watershed. This year, we've expanded our aerial remote sensing of snow program with additional airborne snow observatory flights in additional watersheds throughout the state. And we're especially focusing this data collection in the Southern Sierras to give us more of that data so that we can gain better insights into what we can expect later this year once all of this snow eventually melts. Our major reservoirs have drastically improved compared to where we were at the beginning of this water year, back on October 1st. And our statewide reservoir storage is currently at 107% of average. And we're expected to capture even more storage once the snowpack eventually melts later on in the spring and summer. So with that, I will pass it off to the Director of the California Department of Water Resources, Carla Namath.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you for joining us here at our chilly April 1 snow survey. I want to pick up where Sean left off. We're very, very fortunate to be sitting at just over 100% of average in our major reservoirs across the state. What's important about the cooler temperatures that we've had is this snow melt is going to feed those reservoirs throughout the spring and summer. Which is a good thing for water supply. The real challenge as we move into spring and summer, though, is flooding, significant flooding, particularly in the Tulare Lake Basin. The department is very focused on the entire Central Valley, including the Sacramento Valley, but certainly very focused on some of the challenges that communities in the Tulare Lake Basin will experience this year. As Sean mentioned, we do transition into runoff measurement. So our new runoff numbers will be available approximately a week from today. That is significant information that helps water managers and flood managers understand what is coming out of the system right now and what's anticipated to come out of the system. There is variability. It does depend how quickly California warms up as to how quickly we will experience the snowmelt, but we are into those longer daylight hours, which can trigger snowmelt at a much more rapid pace. Governor Newsom has issued numerous executive orders. I think first and foremost, the governor did express the conclusion of our drought from a hydrologic perspective, but we do have Californians that will continue to struggle with water supply, particularly those in the Central Valley, and particularly those communities that are dependent on groundwater wells. It is possible that given the conditions in the Central Valley, particularly in the Tulare Lake Basin, that there will be simultaneously water supply challenges that come along with drought, but also water supply challenges that come along with very, very significant flooding. Governor Newsom, in his executive order, also described the work that we need to do as Californians to maintain water conservation as a way of life. Even though we have this extraordinary snowpack, we know that the droughts are getting deeper and more frequent, and that means we have to use water efficiently no matter what our hydrologic conditions. And the governor has emphasized that as the path forward for California, and to make sure that we are resilient as an economy and for our environment, that we all continue to use water wisely in the state. The governor also issued an executive order in response to the need to prepare for significant flooding in the Central Valley. Significant resources have been marshaled across state agencies to work with the local counties who have the responsibility to manage where floodwaters go. And as we know, per Sean, the staggering amount of snowpack in that part of the state and the very intense runoff conditions that we anticipate are going to create significant challenges with long duration flooding in that part of the state. And then lastly, the governor also issued an executive order focused on groundwater recharge, which hits on a much broader theme, which is when we have these kinds of very significant water years from a supply perspective, we need to do more here in California to make sure that we can capture that supply, put it into reservoirs, and move it underground. That's part of the governor's adapting to a hotter and drier climate strategy. So it really is taking advantage of these very, very wet years so that we can survive the years that are going to come at us, where we will have ongoing drought conditions. I would say back in December, I had a lot of questions when we had our first series of atmospheric rivers. You know, the first question is, well, do they end the drought? And I said, absolutely not. I think we need about half a dozen more of these. Well, here we are sitting at 13, 14, 15, 16, I think, here in California. The entire West Coast has had 31 atmospheric rivers this winter. So just an incredible situation, and a lot of work to do on managing what Mother Nature is giving us to protect the public. That's priority number one, is public safety into the spring and summer, and to make sure that we have supplies, water supplies available for all Californians to help continue the incredible environment and our robust economy here in California. So much more work to be done to adapt to our new climate realities. And with that, I'll open it up to questions. Thank you for being here.
Well, I mean, can we just get your reaction? You said that it's looking like the first or second largest snowpack on record dating back to 1950. What's your reaction to that? This is something you do routinely, these measurements, but this is a far from routine result.
Yeah, so I think we will plan to be here in May. And the last time we did a snow survey in May was in 2020, and I think we had about 1.5 inches of snow. So you really get a sense of the extreme nature of our climate here in California. There's lots of fascinating research around the degree to which climate has been driving the intensity of these storms, but also the very rapid shift from very dry to very wet. And I anticipate that this year will provide a lot of new information to help us understand what's happening, particularly areas that are getting significantly more snow than is customary. There's a lot of complexity in what we expect climate to produce, and the degree to which this just extraordinary snowpack is climate driven in some measure, will be part of ongoing research that the department participates in, and it is truly an extraordinary moment. But we don't get to stop and enjoy that for too long. We are absolutely very focused on public safety and flood protection, and it really is going to require all Californians to be very mindful of, if you're recreating in rivers and streams, the water is going to be cold and high and fast. It is very, very dangerous. If you are living in a community that is going to be have challenges with this snow melt overtopping banks, you must heed the warnings of your local county. Never drive onto flooded roadways. There's a lot of work we need to do over the course of the spring and summer together to make sure that people stay safe. Other questions?
Do you want to just boil down for us why these measurements are so important?
Well, as Sean said, we've been doing our physical measuring since 1910, but over the years, so we have an incredible record, which enables us to understand how snowpack is changing over, a longer period of time. And then that has been supplemented over time with our more sensor-driven snow measurements, and now we're very focused on the aerial snow observations. And so all of these things taken together help provide both the historical picture of what's happening with our snowpack, but also critically a lot more precision about the snow water content all the way up to the peaks, and that's going to be very important as we think about how this snowpack will be required to support our drier times. So all of that is very exciting, and we're just very pleased that folks like to come out and see the physical snow survey. It really gives you just a very obvious flavor of the kind of winter that we're having here in California. But I want to turn it over to Sean, who does this year in, year out with such expert understanding. Sean?
Yeah, so just like Carla said, this is, these snowpack measurements go back to, 1910, and Some agencies have actually been measuring earlier than that. And this program, the California Cooperative Snow Surveys program, most people just see the Department of Water Resources measuring snow, but there's other programs that are out there between the National Park Service, the U.S. Forest Service, Los Angeles Department of Power and Water, Water and Power, PG&E, SMUD, Southern California Edison, so many different these agencies that are out there measuring just like us. And we're just the ones that manage the program, collect all this data. But really, we use all of that for snowmelt forecasting. How much water are we going to have later on in the spring and summer when it's actually needed? Because during those hot, dry summer months, that's when the demand really picks up for the water. And we're lucky enough to have this frozen reservoir and the snowpack eventually melt during those times when we need it the most. So when we don't have this snowpack, that starts to be a lot of trouble for us. But when we're fortunate enough to have big a snowpack as we do this year, that looks to be like pretty good for this year. And kind of going back to what are my reactions for this snowpack. Obviously this is the deepest snowpack I've ever measured here, as well as other locations I've ever measured. We have 8 different sections of snow tube that we can have. Our snow tubes can go down to about 240 inches, but we had to send out guidance to all of our different partners to say, if you need to go down deeper than 240 inches, 20 feet, add on extra tubes. This isn't something that we've had to do in the past. It's made the snow sampling a lot more challenging, just getting there, sampling, cutting through ice layers. But we're hearing stories from some of our measuring cooperators, especially in the Southern Sierra, that this is by far some of the deepest pack they've ever measured on record. We have some folks that have been, that were around in 1969, 1983, and say this just is way deeper than what it was then. This year, especially this month of April, is so critical just because it's right around the peak of our snowpack and trying to grab all that data. Not all of the agencies were able to snag all that data because of various dangers, weather conditions, avalanche danger, that they were not able to access their snow courses by normal means. If it's on skis, snowshoes, snowcats, snowmobiles, just because of the avalanche danger. I myself, as well as a couple of our team members, were fortunate enough to go on a helicopter and fly into the Devil's Postpile National Monument last week to measure snowpack down there. And typically the snow down there isn't necessarily as deep as it is here, but we were measuring close to around 17 or so feet to around 180 inches, 190 inches last week down there, whereas today we're only on about 10 feet. So there is a ton of snow down there, and we are just shattering records in the Southern Sierra in terms of snowpack right now.
For comparison, what did it look out here
Last April there was nothing here. We were here. There was maybe a patch of snow that we were able to measure. I think there was maybe a couple inches. But in terms of where we are here at Phillips, I have that record going back to 1941 here at Phillips, which goes back 82 years. This is the 4th wettest in terms of snow water content going back to 1941, behind those same 3 years, behind 1952, 1983, and 1969. So falling right in line with history so far with this year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, if there's no other questions, we plan to be back out here for the May Snow Survey, which is scheduled for Monday, May 1st.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.